All right, this is video 3, I believe, of exercise 2C. We just made an explosion that we can reuse, so let's use it. So now I'm going to go into the asteroid. We're going to do a bunch of work with the asteroid. We're going to add and change some functionality. So the first thing we're going to do is edit our asteroid. And now we have this. When anything touches the asteroid, it will cause the trigger. It will make sure that touching thing is a bullet. If that is true, it destroys both the bullet and the asteroid. So before we destroy the asteroid, just to make sure that this doesn't mess anything up, I'm going to disconnect the true. And now I am going to create a new node, which is instantiate. This is how we game object instantiate. And we do want original position and rotation. So this is how we create something while the game is running. So we're going to use this a bunch. We are going to make explosions happen by instantiating the prefab. So I can now go to scene prefab. And I've got that explosion prefab, so I can drag it out. Now this is the explosion I made earlier, and I drag that into original. Now it will make one. And right now it'll make it at the world position center, which is what not what I want. So I want to add a node, which is transform position. That's the position the asteroid is at. And it will yell at me if I don't give it a rotation. So rotations are things called quaternions. Which is a rotation through another dimension. They use them in quantum physics and also in 3D programs. People do not generally edit these directly, but I just want the identity, which is no rotation, all zeros. So I'm going to drag that in. And then after I instantiate it, I will destroy the asteroid itself. All right. Now things feel a little more lively. Now I only have 2, but there we go. So now things actually feel like we're destroying them. They don't just blip out of existence. Now I'm going to do something. This is slightly annoying. When I set up for this, I actually created this like several times. So let's do it so we only need to make one box. Let's practice subgraphs. So I'm going to make a subgraph. Nope. Graph, switch, new, make explosion. Double click on it. It needs a trigger, which is in, an output, which is out. And then we're going to go back to this asteroid. We are going to select these things. I want to delete them, go in here, paste them. So Control X, Control V. This is one reason I made this variable a scene variable. So as long as explosion prefab is in a scene variable, it will use it. And now anything that we want to explode, we can just do that subgraph instead of creating 4 boxes. And this works because transform position is this. So it'll make the explosion at wherever is calling this. And we're going to use this box several times now. Okay, so they explode when we shoot them. But we are not done with asteroids. We are going to do two more things. So what if I want to shoot the asteroid more than once to destroy it? Right now, we cannot do that. We just, we touch the asteroid and it explodes because it triggers, checks that there's a bullet. Now, one thing we could do is have a damage counter, which actually we are going to. So the object we have, we're going to go to prefab definition. We're going to edit the object. I'm going to add something to the prefab definition because I want them all to have this. I'm going to do a health. And this will be an integer. And I'm going to start it at 2. Now, we could use this on start. You could randomly change this to a different number. So you could have some that take 1 hit, some that take 5 hits. Right now, it's just going to be 2. But also, we don't necessarily want to be testing this. We want a more generic way of taking damage, because maybe it's not bullets. Maybe different bullets do different damage. And we don't necessarily want the asteroid to know about that. We want maybe the bullet to know how much damage it does. So I'm going to make a new event of my own. So I'm going to add a node. I'm going to call this custom event. So this is a new thing that other objects can say, hey, I hit you. So we're going to call it hit. And it's going to have an argument. So argument of 0 means it takes nothing in. And I'm actually going to increase this to 1. Now, unfortunately, it just says arg0. It doesn't have a name. So I'm just going to have to know that arg0 is how much damage this does, or how much it takes, actually. So I'm not even going to worry about this compare tag bullet anymore. I'm just going to have something tell it, hey, I did damage to you. So let me grab my code from my old example. Yep. Okay, so what we're going to do is set our health. So we're going to add node, which is set variable. And this is an object. So we are going to decrease, I'm going to select that in there, initial speed. By the way, you can type in these variables, but I found it's better to hit the drop down so I don't make a mistake. Okay, so we're going to set the variable, and we're going to set the variable to, we're going to get it. Now we have a reference to it. We are going to do a subtraction. And from health, we are going to subtract our damage, and then we're going to store it back into health. Sorry, don't set it to initial speed, set it to a health. That would actually make it slow down, potentially. So, subtract damage from health. Now we have our health here. Now we are going to check health. Let's say, are we less than less or equal? And we're going to check if it's less than or equal to 0. And we want an if. And so if it is true, if health is less than or 0, then we are going to do a sequence. And right now the sequence is going to be of 1, but after a bit it's going to be 2. So I'm going to start with 1. And then I am going to not destroy the bullet. I am going to make an explosion. I guess I didn't need to copy that. I could just move it. Okay, so we make the explosion, destroy the game object. And now I'm going to erase the trigger event here. So now something can tell me I hit you, and then subtract the health. And then if it's less than or equal to 0, we make the explosion and destroy ourselves. So that's part 1. But if you've ever played Asteroids, you know that an asteroid, when you hit it, it doesn't just destroy it. It usually breaks it off into smaller asteroids, which then fly around the screen. So let's make that happen. That is what's going to happen in this other sequence. But first, let's do some setup. So I'm going to go to my prefabs. Yep. So I'm going to go into my prefab, and I'm going to Control-C, Control-V, asteroid, and I'm going to call it small asteroid. Now I could simply make normal asteroids and make them smaller, but since I only want to do the creation step once, I'm actually creating a new different object which has a slightly different script. So I'm going to double click into here. I am going to, so one thing you can do in Unity is math in position, rotation, scale. So I'm selecting scale and is going to do divide by 3, and then divide by 3, and hit enter, and then divide by 3. So now we have a much smaller asteroid, which will still rotate itself in a random direction and go in a random way. But I am going to set its health to 1, and I am going to make its initial speed, let's make it faster. So twice as fast. Now, I'm not done here. I want to go into Visual Scripts, and I am going to take Asteroid. I'm going to Control-C, Control-V, and now I'm going to do Asteroid Small. And then go back into my Small Asteroid prefab, and hit the circle next to the script machine, and do Asteroid S, Asteroid Small, and now I'm done. Actually, I don't need to change anything else. I actually want this to wrap. I want it to take this hit and explode. And the reason I'm duplicating this is I'm actually not done with my other script. So let's select Asteroid, double click on Asteroid script. By the way, the reason I'm doing that instead of editing them directly from the content is I want to make sure that I'm editing the right thing, which has the object variables. So it only registers the object variables if I'm editing from an object, not from just the script graph itself. Okay, now sequence 2. We are going to do a new thing called a loop. Loops are used when we want to do something multiple times. And for this, we want a for loop. For loop says from 0 to the last number, it's actually the last number minus 1. So I want this to happen 3 times, so I'm going to say 3. So it's actually going to do 0, 1, and 2. It steps by 1, so if I wanted to double this, I could actually step by 0.5. And then it does something when I'm done stepping through everything. I might want to check the index, because I might want to do something in a line. But right now, what I want to do is for 0, 1, and 2, I'm going to pull off the body, and I'm going to do another game object, instantiate. Now I could do another subgraph like make explosions, but right now I'm just going to do this. I do need to add something to my prefab definition, which is, small prefab. And I'm going to set that to game object. The reason I'm doing prefab definition instead of prefab instance is I want to make sure that they all get it instead of just this asteroid up here. So small prefab. I'm going to go back into my prefabs, get my small. Oh wait, I can just click here, right? Small asteroid. Okay. So I am going to create a small asteroid at transform get position, and once again quaternion literal. So whenever I explode an asteroid, it will go from 0 to 3, so 0, 1, and 2, and it will create a new small prefab. Let us hit play and see it in action. Oop! Did not see it in action yet. I did not complete this bit. Okay, so I accept a custom action event, so now I need to actually do, I have to rearrange the other side. So we're going to go back to our bullet. So now the bullet itself is going to tell other things that I hit you. So bullet, this is our bullet code that shoots forward from wherever the transform up is. So on trigger enter 2D and TER. Okay, so now when we hit something, we, the bullet needs a damage. Oh, we did that last time. So now we're going to use it. Pull it in, here's our damage. And then we are going to trigger custom. So this is the other side of custom event. And so when you trigger enter something, it gives you a reference to the thing you touched, which is this collider component, and all components, of course, are on game objects. So I'm going to drag this in to the game object box, which says we are triggering this event. We are going to give it a name, which is hit, and we're going to change its arguments to 1, because we have to say damage, so I'm going to give the damage to here. And then, once the bullet has hit something, it will do game object destroy, and it will get this. So it will destroy itself. Now, let's wait for one of these to come through. There we go. So I'm going to shoot twice. Once. Oop. There's the explosion. And the small asteroids now fly off rapidly. So I actually probably don't want them to go 3. So I'm going to go back to my prefabs and get my small asteroids and maybe say 2. There we go. So they'll be slightly faster. So there is an asteroid which takes damage. Show it. So it takes the custom event hit, subtracts damage, checks if it's less than 0. If it is, it makes the explosion and destroys itself. and then also create 3 smaller ones. And you could also make this random, so they could make 3, they could make 20, all by changing this number. If you wanted this to be random, you would do something like random range. And we want exclusive, because that's integer 1, and then we'd say something like, go here, nope. We would say from the sequence, we would first get a random, and then spit it out into blast. And I could say between, let's say between 2 and 5. So it'll actually create, it'll create 2, or it'll create 4, actually. Because 0, 1, which is 2, or 0, 1, 2, 3, which is 4. So just to test it out, I'm showing you you can do it. There we go. Created 2. Oh, and those wrap 2 now. All right, so that is it for the moving asteroids.